Hey guys, it is Carl Brown for GuitarLessons365.com. Have a great song for you today. It's requested a lot, and it is Still Loving You by the Scorpions. So before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring that little notification bell too, so you'll know when I release a new video. And please check out my Guitar Academy. It's at GuitarLessons365.com. Has all my guitar courses, lots of fun stuff there. All right, so let's get to the song. Now this one's tuning is standard tuning, but on the recording, when you're listening to the original recording, it's gonna sound a quarter step sharp of that. That could have been back from the old analog days, just the tape machine was a little bit, quicker or whatever, or slower or whatever, however it makes it. Or they could have done it intentionally. But so you're gonna have to. What I did is I put it in some this software called Transcribe by a company called 7th String, and it allows me to lower the pitch of the original recording. And I did it loaded at like 42 cents. Seems like I'm doing a lot of songs like that lately. I have to alter it a little bit there. But anyway, and then I get them down to really truly standard pitch, so I can figure the song out. So let's start here. We have, for most of the track, like a lot of the Scorpion songs, we have two distinct guitar parts going on. So this opening line, the very beginning here, this section that I just played, is played by Rudolf Schenker, and he has kind of an interesting way that he fingers it, as you probably notice. That kind of move right there, and then this, where I'm coming around using the pinky like that, which, proper guitar form tells you should play that chord like that. There's a very good reason that he did it though. So let's check it out. So we're going to start here with the 6th fret there on the high E, 8th on the B, 7th on the G string. And you're going to play the open D string as well. So we have this. So you're going to pick that open D. I just do it with a downstroke, and then up on the high E, up on the B, up on the G. All right, so here's where he decides to use his pinky here to do this. So he can go down and grab this root note. So basically change the bass note there. So we have this. Same 3 notes on top, so in the same picking pattern, just with the first note is different. And then he changes the bass note to the 6th fret on the A. Now he can do that now and still keep the same 3 fret string, the chords up top, by just barring across the 6th fret. And now that's the reason why he leaves that 3rd finger there, because now he can do that little melody that they play on top while still keeping that note ringing, because he wants to keep everything ringing so it just sounds a little bit fuller. So we have to do it like that. And now he can just take this melody on top, which is 9, 8, 6 on the high E string, and then pick that B string again, which is already being held. So we have this. All right, so to continue this and keep these notes ringing, he now plays this note again with his pinky, holding a full chord here, major 7th chord, an E flat major 7. And he's going to do do that little figure. So what he's doing there is he's picking the 5th and 4th strings together. And then we're going to go to the high E string. So it's a little bit different rhythm there. So the high E, B, then G, D. And now what you're going to do just to end it is you're going to pick up the middle finger. So we have a dominant 7th chord shape now, and you're going to move it back 1 fret. And then the same picking pattern we did before. So all together. Repeat. And here, he's going to stop on the G string there. So it's going to be just 3 notes picked down there. All right, so that would be his part. Now the second time through this, you hear another picking pattern go through, and that is what Matthias Jabs is doing, and it looks like this. All right, so we're just going to play here this bar at the 3rd fret, and then the 5th fret there on the D. So you're going to pick across that from just starting from the D string. And once again, we're going to change the root note or the bass note each time. So we have that, and then you're just gonna lift up that finger, and you have a bar across the 3rd fret across 4 strings now. So you're gonna the bass note's now the 3rd fret on the D. And then you're going to reach over for the bass note at the 6th fret there on the A string. And then once again pick the G, B, high E with that bar there. So we have this. So that goes with this. All right, so we get there. Now to match this, he does this. So that's playing the 6th fret on the G, and then you do a quick little hammer pull from 5 to 6 on the G, to 3 on the G, over to 5 on the D. All right, then we go back to that previous chord we were doing, but now the picking's going to be different. We just have that 6th fret there on the A string, and then back it up. So that's the high E, B, G, back to the A string, and then right here, we just grab a D7 chord. So you'll see him how he ends this section. He'll have this open D, then he'll pick the B, this which is held on the 1st fret, 2nd fret on the G, 2nd fret on the high E. So I pick the D, then the B, the G, and the high E. First time through it, he'll come back down to that B real quick and then pick through this thing. You'll hear this later in the song, basically. Kind of just ends there on the high E. All right, so it's a lot going on just in that intro with those 2 distinct parts. You're going to see that intro riff quite a bit. They do these little turnaround sections where Matthias Jabs is soloing over, but that will be the rhythm that's going on each of those 2 parts. All right, and then we have the verse, which once again has 2 distinct arpeggiated parts to it. So Rudolf Schenker's part is this. It is time to run like your love again. I will be there. just repeats that. So it's starting with this same chord that we did with the open D, and then the 6th fret there on the high E, 8th on the B, 7 on the G. So it's that same shape, but it's just kind of picking it across consistently. So it's this pattern, open D, then high E, B, G, high E, B, G, and then the high E. So wait this. So it's an 8-note pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they just repeat that for a bit. So you repeat it 4 times. And then you're going to move it up to here. You're going to play, it just looks like a D major shape, but you're going to move it up to here at the 9th fret, which makes it A major. So we have this. So it's that same picking pattern that we did, but just across these 3 strings. So we have this, that's the root note. And then we're going to change the root note to make it a first inversion A major chord by playing the 11th fret here on the D. So that's going to be the bass note now. And then same picking pattern above that. So we have this. And then you're going to take it down to a regular D major. And the same picking pattern done over these 4 strings does twice. So all together. And then he goes through that same thing again. At the very end, he just stops. You're going to hear a little in Matthias Jab's part. And you can do that, so kind of just hammer on the 3rd fret and then back to the 2nd fret there to the regular D. But let's take a look at now Matthias Jab's part there. So that's pretty cool when you put these 2 together if you have a second guitarist to play with. It looks like this. So it just kind of repeats that again with a slightly different ending, what I talked about a second ago. So this chord that we're starting with is just this G minor chord with the 5th fret on the A and the D, and then barring that 3rd fret across the high E, B, and the G again. So here we're just going to play this. So we pick across the A, D, G, D, and then B, G, and then the high E, and then you just kind of pause there. Repeat. Oh, sorry, we'll do that pattern again. And here we stop and go to an A major chord. And the pattern here really kind of just starts on this high E string. So I'm just thinking of it like this. The high E, then the A. So when I get to the A, I really start the pattern. I'm going to skip a string each time. I'm going to skip to the G. Now I'm going to do the same thing starting from the D string instead of the A. And then now the same thing starting from the G string. So this. And then you're going to do the same thing, but instead of starting with the open high E string, you're going to start with the E that's at the 2nd fret there on the D. So you're already holding that. And then you just go back down to the A string and do that pattern again, skipping a string. So we have this. And then just take it to a D major chord. And once again, we kind of have one of these string skipping patterns. You're going to start with just the open D to the G string. And then you're going to hit the D again, skip to the B, and then G, skip to the high E string. So we have this. And then kind of the same thing again. You get this, on the first one, he kind of starts on the upbeat. Not the upbeat, but the kind of the second 16th note in the pattern. So we have this. And then he repeats it. So it's the same thing, it's just he just hits that open D twice the second time through. So we get this. And then back repeat. Then it's pretty much the same pattern again. Except here on the D, when we get to the D, we're just going to go. So that's just that starting the same way. Except the first time you get to the high E, you just stop, hammer on the 3rd fret, and then pick 2 again. All right? So that is the verse. So those are really the most intricate parts of the songs, the intro section and all the arpeggiated parts that go on over it, and then this verse. So the rest of the song, it's a lot simpler to memorize. All right, so let's start here. After this first verse, we have a little turnaround section. Now, what's happening is the 2 rhythm guitar parts from the intro are playing, while Matthias Jabs plays a little bit of a short little solo over it. So let me show you the solo first. He starts it out with a lead tone. I'm going to roll it way back, so it's very kind of like you just roll back your volume to get this. So here's that solo that you'll hear with that part. All right, so we're going to be starting with just the volume rolled back on a big lead tone, so that kind of gives you that kind of broken up sound. When he hits it hard, you see it kind of a little bit just break up a bit. You're going to slide into the 5th fret of the D string, and then play 2, 3, 5 on the G, and then pull off 3 to 2, then back to 3 on the G. For this. Then 2 on the G to 5 on the D, then hammer 2 to 3 on the G, and then back to 2. So this. Sorry. And then we're going to palm mute up. So that's just 5 on the D, palm muted, then 2, 3, 5, back to that 3. And when I go back to that 3, I do it with my index finger. So then I can just do a bend at the 5th fret, a really gradual bend at the 5th fret on the G. So this. Then roll the volume up, and you got the second half. So you're going to hear this turnaround part a little bit later in the song as well, after the first chorus. And it's the same thing going on, except all you hear is this. The second half of this solo. So he repeats it the same way. So you'll see that a little bit later. So we're going to slide into the G, the 12th fret on the G, and then 10, 11, 13 on the B. Then do a pull off, 11 to 10, and then hammer back, then play 11 again. So then come over to the 12th fret on the G, and then 11 on the B, and 13 on the high E. Into a big bend there. And then you're going to do a bend at the 13th fret on the B string, release, pull off to 11, over to 12 on the G, and then do a quick hammer from 11 to 13 on the B. Let that ring and then slowly bend it up. So. All right, so then we go through verse 2, which is the exact same as verse 1. So nothing new to learn there. We did all of the hard work for that already. And then we finally get to the chorus. Chorus, both guitar players are playing the same chords, but usually just kind of in slightly different voicings, different power chord, different areas of the fretboard, basically. All right, so Matthias Jabs does it this way. All right, so he plays this G power chord like this, which you see him do quite a bit. He's grabbing the low note with his thumb there on the 3rd fret on the low E. And then with that same finger, he's muting the open A string. All right, so now you're going to have the open D and the open G. And then you're going to play you do a bar across the 3rd fret of the B and the high E string. So we have this. And then you can play the E flat power chord. You can do it here. You don't have to move around there, or you can play it up here. So you kind of make a decision. But the 6th fret power chord here off the A string, or 1st fret on the D, 3rd on the G, 4 on the B. So this. And then down to the 1st fret B flat power chord. And then down to the 1st fret off the low E. So hear this. And then same thing. All right, and then here we're going to go back with that opening G. Then it goes to a C power chord though. That's the 3rd fret off the A string. Then up to the D, 2 frets up. So that's 3rd fret power chord off the low E, then the 1st fret. So here, coming from this G to the C, he slides into the 6th fret there on the A string, and then goes 5, then pull off. It's kind of just doing some pull offs from 6 to 5. And then move it up 2 frets. And then just play that power chord there at the 8th fret to end it there. All right, so that's Matthias Jabs' part there. And then Rudolf Schenker pretty much does a lot of the same thing. He'll just play this power chord off the 3rd fret of the low E. So just kind of a little bit higher voicing. So he'll play, instead of the open version of that power chord, just the regular one at the 3rd fret of the low E. 6th fret off the A string, E flat power chord. Then he'll take it to the B flat. Instead of here, he'll play to the 6th fret of the low E. And then move up and play the high F instead of the low F. There at the 8th fret on the A string. the same kind of way we did before, just a different first chord, regular power chord. That C to the D, and then kind of that same kind of thing we did with Matthias Jazz part, and then he just goes up and plays the chords there, the 6th fret, then the 8th, while Matthias Jazz doing. So he's just playing the chords. All right, so the first chorus there is the most simplistic one. They do some fills and stuff coming up later, and we'll cover that as we get there. All right, so now we're to that second turnaround that I talked about earlier that we did. So this part right here isn't there in this solo, but this one is. All right, so then we make it to the verse 3, which is the same as the first 3 verses, except we have some chord stabs in there, and we have some fills going on by Matthias Jazz. So so it's really, to accomplish all of this like it's on the recording, you need like 4 guitars. So you really kind of choose what you want to do here. But these chord stabs, it's over this. You'll hear this. It's kind of just playing the same chord shapes but doing like chord stabs on it. So I mean, it's probably not that conducive to. It sounds better just. I'll probably do that section there, but I just wanted to let you know what's going on there. While Matthias Jazz plays this. So we have some of those fills going on there. So we have this sliding from 3 to 5 on the A. And then play 3-5 on the D. Then a slight bend at the 3rd fret on the G. Over to the 5th fret on the D. And then he has this little double stop, which is kind of bending the 5th fret there on the G and the B together. Release to the 3 on the G and the B. Then play 5-3 on the D. Over to the 5th fret there on the A string. He doesn't usually play it like that live, but on recording is what it sounds like. Kind of just holding that note. And then the second time you'll hear him do it again. Kind of the same thing again there. So really nothing that, overly tricky to play or anything. All right, so in the second chorus here, it's twice as long. So in this, when it's basically doing the repeat at the end is where you start hearing some fills being played here. So these fills are usually played by Rudolf Schenker live. So we can do this starting with this first fill. So that's basically just starting a little bit lower. Kind of this, close to the thing we did before. Kind of some harmonics there on the 1st fret of the low E with some bend. 1st fret there. And then play the 3rd fret. And then you're going to hammer 1 to 3 on the 5th string. And then 3 to 5 on the D. And then a little slight bend there. Over to 5th fret there on the D. All right, and then we'll get to this next fill. So that's just a bend there at the 3rd fret there. Pre-bend, release, pull off to 11, slide down to 10. All right, I'm not actually sure who plays this. It might be Rudolf Schenker, it might be Matthias Jazz, but I know the final solo that we'll be playing in a second is played by Rudolf. So we're gonna now go to this next one, which is just a bend there at the 20th fret on the high E. Release, pull off to 18, and back to another bend there. And then the final fill comes over the, which is kind of starting again from this low E string, kind of hammering 0 to 1. I'm sorry, 1 to 3 there on the low E, and then hammer 1 to 3 on the A, slide in. Same thing we did before, going 3 to 5 on the D, and then 3 to 5 on the G. And you can do a bend and release on that 5. So then pull off the 3, then over to 3 on the D. And that's pretty much all the fills for the chorus. And I continue doing singing the chorus when this next section is where I think the actual definitive guitar solo starts. It's not just fills. So let me play through that guitar solo. Underneath the guitar solo is just the chords for the chorus. So it shouldn't be anything that difficult to figure out. So let's go through the solo real quick. He just kind of repeats that melody there for a bit. So what we're doing here is we're going to start here with this little unison bend, the 15th fret on the high E string, and then 18th on the B. So you're going to pick those together and bend up the 18, and then do a bend and release on the 18, over to 15 on the B, over to 17 on the G, and then bend up that 17 on the G, and then play 18 on the B string, and then bend that 17 again. So hear this. All right, the next phrase. So that's starting at the 20th fret there on the B string, then 17, 18, 20 on the high E string, bend up that 20th fret. Again, release, pull off to 18, and then back to 20. All together so far? And then this. All right, the next phrase looks like this. So that starts with that unison bend that we did before. And then you're going to jump down here. That's the 12th fret there on the G. Then 10 on the B, 11 on the B. Now, when he plays this melody a little bit later, it's a bit different. So stay tuned for that. So after you play that 10, 11 on the B, jump up to the 16th fret and bend and release that there. And then you're going to do that pre-bend thing, kind of this pre-bend, then pick it normal, the 18th fret. And And then back up here to the 20th fret on the high E string. And kind of doing more of those bend, release, pull off to 18, and then bend again. So we had this. All right, next phrase. So this is going to be a roll from the 15th fret on the B over to 15 on the high E string. Then you're going to go up to 17, 18 on the high E, back down to 17. And when you get to this 17, now you're going to go between 17 and 18 on the 17 on the high E, 18 on the B a couple times. And so that second time you play that 18, you bend it up. And then we do pretty much the same lick starting, except instead of bending this note up, you resolve it down to the 15th fret on the B. And here we have a little fast repeated blues lick. So this, let me just play this phrase through. All right, so that right there is just, you might have played this kind of a lick before. It's just kind of hammering on, pick 15 on the B, hammer on 18, pull back off to 15. Then over to 17 there on the G. So this is a downstroke here on the B, hammer, pull, then another downstroke on the G. And then you can just kind of repeat it like that. Down, 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 down. So he does that for a few licks. And then kind of does some staccato notes on the 18th fret there on the B. And then goes back into that lick. And then into that lick again, and then to just end it with a bend there on the B string. So it is. So coming out of this previous lick. All right, now coming out of that, we have this. All right, so what he does is he grabs the 18th there on the B, 20th on the high E string. You put them together and kind of slightly bend them up. And then we get to this little slower melody down. So it's just 10, 11, 13, back to 11, then kind of a hammer pull there, over to 13 on the B. So, sorry. And you can kind of maybe do that hammer again, pull there, and then into a bend there at the 13th fret there on the B string. And then what he does is he does that same lick he did here, but he does it here, so using 11, 13 on the B, and then a 12 on the G. So just do it a couple times. So instead of that, do it here. And he ends it, and then we have a bend at the 13th fret there, and grabbing the 13 on the high E while you do that, into another bend at the 13th. So out of this. Now this next lick is the one that's going to be kind of hard to get note for note because it's kind of doesn't come out very well on the recording. But I can you can kind of hear what he's doing, and you can kind of see what he's doing live, what he's doing with it. So basically, it's just a little pentatonic. kind of a pentatonic based G minor pentatonic. So let me just show you the notes, and then you can really do whatever you want with it because that's what he does. So it's 5-3 on the G, 5-3 on the D, 5-3 on the A string, then move down to the first fret on the A, and then play 3-1 on the low E. So he just kind of goes for it, and just so you can just really do whatever you want, come back up, and you just basically need to make sure you make it to the beginning of the next phrase, which starts back up here with that unison bend. So just kind of do whatever you want, and then all right, so that little phrase that I just played there, that continually repeats as the song fades out. And this is where he does something a bit odd with the melody. We are in G minor. However, so there should be a B flat in there, which there was before. But when he plays it at the end, instead of a B flat, he makes it a B natural, which sounds over the G minor, shouldn't really work. So that's when you hear that little note, it kind of gets your attention because it's not in the key, actually. So it should be a B flat, but he probably does it because it really makes the note kind of stand out and give it. And he repeats it that way 3 times, so it's obviously not a mistake. So we have this. And then it kind of repeats there. All right, so we have starting with that same unison bend, and then we had this, which is, there's that B natural. 12, 13, 15, and then up to the 16th fret, bend and release. And then you're going to do the same little that we saw earlier. And then it goes down to this part. So we had this 13, 11, 10 on the B, then 12, 11, then back to 12, sliding into the 14. Then back to 12. So far. And then we go up to the 15th fret there on the B. Kind of do a little hammer to 16, pull back up to 15, and then I'll pull off. And he just kind of messes with this and starts making it a more pronounced trill as it goes. And then we just repeat everything we just did. And it starts to fade out. So that's just working over the chorus chords. I will say, actually, leading into this solo, I might have missed in the chords, in that final chorus when we were doing those fills. What were we doing? We were doing those fills. There's a little, there's a little addition to the chorus. We have this, where before it goes to that C, it goes. So everything else is the same. So it's just a quick little 3, 1, 3, and then to that C. I think I left that out when I'm thinking about it. So that just happens when we were doing those fills coming into the solo. And then the solo, it's just the normal chorus chords. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth breakdown of this classic ballad by the Scorpions. I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.